tend to be a little biased toward people I talk to who express a lot of emotion. But with the concept of moral injury and the concept of shame, I've shifted. And I do still want to interview men who will express their emotions, but I find the men who are not to be telling me an awful lot too.
Yeah.
And it's taken me a while to understand that and to see that. And it's because I learned the concept of moral injury, which means I feel bad about what I've done, and it's hard for me to admit it. I feel bad. It violates my moral principles to witness what other people have done to other people, and it violates my moral principles to experience what people have done to me. So moral injury has three parts, and I just learned the concept just in 2014. And I haven't really done much interviewing, and I just started interviewing again in January. And almost immediately I saw the moral injury. And more in the men, or in the men who wouldn't talk about certain things. And that's opened up a whole new line of inquiry. Now, the man who's quite emotional, he also has moral injury. But he's expressing it in ways that I can see he's just in pain. But he's in emotional pain all the time. He doesn't have good filters the way the more stoic guys do.
So I guess there's a question in my mind of what is the function of the stoicism?
Oh.
Is that self-protective? Is it something that I do so I can watch you, so I can observe you? Is it, as a clinician, is it dissociative?
That's really good.
Or is it a space where if I just talk about it and not be emotional, then I don't have to have buy-in? Here's my reference point. My father's a decorated Vietnam vet.
Yeah.
Who was in Special Forces.
Right.
Who, when he goes to sleep, he goes back to Vietnam.
I bet he does.
But he doesn't, I maybe know 5 stories. My father's 86. And I can hear the levels of injury when I hear him in his sleep.
Right.
This past December was the first time that he spoke about how some of the things that he had done had impacted him.
Right.
And he did it in front of his family, which was potent for us, right? Really powerful. We were all cheering up. And I also have done work with veterans and with military families, so that whole notion around what happens when a veteran comes back home, and what they talk about and what they don't talk about. When I went to the VA as an intern, my representation of those veterans was my dad, but I also worked with gang members before I had gone there. And there were tons of parallels between the gang members and these veterans, particularly combat vets at some levels. They weren't exactly the same. Their life trajectories were really different, but some of the experiences the gang members talked about when I talked with them were not too dissimilar from some of the experiences that I heard veterans. I know some of the veterans I know would probably say, "You've lost your mind," and I would say, "Well, yeah, but I'm listening and I'm hearing parallels." And so when I would speak with them, I would speak from the standpoint of, "So tell me what it was like for you while this was happening to you, or while you were engaged in this," because that gets at an entirely different piece of their experience. But the question I think that I'm struggling with is, while they're watching you, what are you making of that space?
If you want to know the truth, they're young to me now. See? I see them as young men, and I see them as wanting forgiveness. I feel, and they're wanting to be understood, and I feel it in my heart. I feel love. I feel love. I can see their faces, and I think, oh my God, if I could change what happened to you as you were growing up, because part of my research is knowing their stories from as early as they can remember.
Sure.
Do you think that they recognize that?
I don't know. I know I have no problem having people to interview, because they all live in the same house, or they live in a residence, and they all end up at the house during the day, and so they're talking about the research all the time. Not all the time, but they talk about the research with each other. So
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. So everybody there knows about the research.
It's wildly speculating, but I would guess that there's some recognition of that empathy, but it's mysterious.
It is a little confusing. Somebody said to me, you mean you really care about us?
Exactly.
And I said, of course I do. I care about you. I care about what happened to you.
I'm just going to say this.
I think they even asked me why you care about us.
Why do you care? Some of the history, at least from my perspective of people actually asking these questions, are from a voyeuristic perspective. Where you're coming from is a sense of, I absolutely care about you as a person,
That's right.
and I see you as more than just what you did.
Yes.
That's a huge gift. My guess also, I'm going to put that's a huge gift. But my guess also is that a piece of how you got to that space was about having been in that space long enough that people, and I'm just going to say it, she was a good white lady. You're a good white lady, so we can talk to you. Because other white people, we're not talking to you. Why would we tell you we don't know what your interests are at all? And hence the notion of, you really actually do care? How did that happen? How did you get to that? And boy, are we glad that you do. Because the other question is, why do you care at all?
Right. But I think an important part of the caring is my recognizing that they also hurt people.
Right.
Because they know they hurt
They know
people.
they do. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So if I pretend, oh, these are just good boys, let them out and they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
They're not going to be fine because they still have some of these
That's
same,
right. DOC, yeah.
these same, there are neurobiological things to
Right.
call them, but they're the
Sure.
same schemas.
Yes.
So you put them in a situation, they may actually do the same thing, even though they feel terrible about it. So that's why they're in treatment. Because I'm thinking of another white man. This guy was just one big mass of mistrust. And I could just look at it and see it. And he was, again, a big, gorgeous, beautiful young man. There are lots of cues or signs of mistrust, not only in how he presented himself, but also he told me in the very first interview, I've failed treatment 3 times. I can understand that in terms of moral injury. There was a certain place he couldn't go to. There was such deep shame about what he did that I hope he gets to it before he leaves treatment, because there's indications that with moral injury, if you don't really embrace it and say, yes, I did a terrible thing and I feel bad and I need some reconciliation about it, you're at risk to do it again.
I'm so appreciative of having this conversation. Thank you. This was
Great,
really
thank you.
informative.